Today, we're going to tackle one of the biggest questions of our time by looking back through 250 years of history. We're going to explore what I'm calling the 5 revolutions of work.
But let's be honest, right? The real reason we're all here is this question. It's the anxiety humming in the background of pretty much everything right now. Will AI, make my job obsolete?
Well, to get to the answer, we're not going to gaze into some crystal ball. We're actually going to look into the history books, because this feeling, this massive disruption, it has happened before. 4 times, in fact. And history's answer is a surprisingly powerful guide for what's coming next.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. The fear is real, and it's totally understandable. I mean, when you see AI creating art, or writing code, or doing financial analysis, it's natural to ask, is this time really different? That is the core question we're going to tackle head-on. First things first, we need a really clear definition. An industrial revolution isn't just about a cool new gadget. It's a massive technological wave that completely reorders society. It always destroys millions of jobs, and that causes real pain. But, and this is the part we always seem to forget, it has always, eventually, created even more jobs.
So, let's rewind the clock. To really understand our future, we have to understand the past. We're going to start with the age of steam and coal and iron and electricity. These are the revolutions that literally built the world we live in.
This slide just captures the brutal trade-off of that first revolution perfectly. The power loom, it destroyed the livelihood of 250,000 skilled weavers. I mean, a devastating loss for them and their families. But that exact same technology created 1.5 million brand new jobs for factory workers. It wasn't a simple one-for-one swap, it was a total reinvention of the economy.
And get this, the change wasn't just about money or jobs. It was a complete rewiring of the human brain. You literally had to unlearn a life that was governed by the sun and the seasons, and learn to live by the mechanical tick of a factory clock. You had to unlearn the pride of being a master craftsman and learn to be a tiny cog in a giant machine. A truly profound cognitive shift.
And this chart just shows you the sheer scale of that rewiring. In just 80 years, barely a single lifetime, the percentage of people working on farms in the UK was cut in half. That is tens of millions of people moving from the countryside into brand new, chaotic industrial cities. It's a societal upheaval that's hard for us to even imagine today.
Now let's jump to the second revolution and see how this pattern builds. This wasn't just about factories anymore. Electricity and mass production, they created entirely new categories of work out of thin air. I mean, think about it. Roles like electrical engineer or telephone operator simply didn't exist a generation earlier. This wave gave birth to the professional middle class as we know it.
Okay, let's fast forward to a time many of us actually remember, the third and fourth revolutions, the digital and internet eras. This is where the pattern takes a fascinating turn, because for the first time in history, machines began to automate not just our muscle power, but routine brain power.
And the result of that? Another massive economic migration. By the year 2000, the manufacturing-heavy economy of the mid-20th century was basically gone. America and most of the developed world had become a service and knowledge economy. Look at that. 3 out of every 4 workers were in this brand new sector. This table tells the story of exactly where those jobs went. You can see manufacturing's share of the workforce got cut in half between 1970 and 2000. But those jobs didn't just vanish into thin air. Nope. They were replaced by explosive growth in healthcare, in professional services, and of course, in the brand new information and tech sector. The really crucial point, though, is that the new jobs weren't in the same places or for the same people as the old ones, and that created huge social challenges. And that brings us to right now, the 5th revolution, the age of AI. So is this time really different? Well, history tells us every revolution feels different, but this one has 3 things that really do set it apart. Its insane speed, its truly global scale, and most importantly, what it's targeting, high-level cognitive work. And the numbers we're talking about are just staggering. Some analysis suggests that up to 300 million jobs globally are at high risk from the current wave of AI automation.
And to adapt to that, the World Economic Forum estimates that over 1 billion workers will need significant reskilling by the end of this decade. That's almost 1 in every 3 workers on the entire planet.
But here's the other side of that coin. The whole reason this massive change is happening is because of the immense opportunity. The potential productivity gain per worker is estimated to be over 40%. This is the engine that will create the new wealth and the new jobs. So this slide, this gets right to the heart of the "is this time different" question.
Previous revolutions automated our hands, our muscles, and then the really repetitive, boring parts of our brains. But the fifth revolution is the first one to automate things like creativity, analysis, and judgment, the very skills that were the safe haven for workers in the last big transition.
Okay, so acknowledging the challenge is the first step. But the great thing about looking at history is that it doesn't just give us warnings, it gives us a playbook. So let's look at the survival guide that we can pull from these last 250 years of chaos.
This quote from the futurist Alvin Toffler, he wrote it over 50 years ago, but it feels like it could have been written this morning. Survival and success in a revolution are not about what you already know. It's all about your ability to adapt, to learn, unlearn, and then relearn.
In that adaptation process, it follows a really predictable pattern. It always starts with shock, then mass disruption, and then this crisis moment where the demand for new skills totally outpaces the supply. But it is always followed by normalization and then maturity as we all adapt. Understanding this cycle helps us figure out where we are right now and what's probably coming next.
So if you boil it all down, history teaches us 3 timeless laws of survival. First, learn the new skills before your old job disappears. Don't wait. Second, define yourself by the skills you have, the problems you can solve, not by your job title, because job titles become obsolete. And third, and this is maybe the most important, remember that the painful gap between the old world and the new world always feels permanent to the people living through it, but it has always been temporary.
250 years of history show a clear, powerful, and honestly pretty hopeful pattern. Human ingenuity and our ability to adapt have consistently outpaced automation. New, better, and often more fulfilling work has always been created. So the big, overarching question isn't whether humanity as a whole will adapt. We will. The real question is much more personal. It's, will you?